Weave a Real Peace is an organization that's been around for more than 30 years, right, Susan?
27, I think, or
20.
28.
Oh, not quite. All right, I'm rushing it.
Yeah.
And here's the little promo on our talk today with a couple of our speakers involved. Our mission is broad. Our mission is to foster a global network of enthusiasts who value the importance of textiles to grassroots economies. And we have members who've worked all over the world, and we have members who work all over the US, and members who shop in all of those places as well. This year, of course, like many things, our annual meeting had to be canceled. And so we're using this opportunity to bring the expertise of some of our members to the larger community. We're happy to have you. If you haven't joined WARP, we'd be happy to have you if you'd like to join after you see this program. I'm trying to remember who we decided to would go first. Is it you, Alicia?
Yes.
All right.
You ready?
Well, yes, we're ready for Alicia to pull up her screen and share it with us. I met Alicia several years ago at a WARP annual meeting was it in Iowa?
Yeah, probably.
In
Okay, there it is.
Iowa. She brought fabulous textiles with her and has a great story to tell. So happy you were willing to share it with us today. Please.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting us. Queen Amina Embroidery is a group in Zaria City in northern Nigeria. And that area has long been known for beautiful, beautiful hand embroidery. And it started in 1994 when Hassana Yusuf, who's the woman here on the left, and I were doing some interviews on childbirth. So we weren't looking at specifically at embroidery, but we noticed that some of the women there were doing exquisite hand embroidery. And so it occurred to us that it would be really good to start some sort of project where they could be making money doing hand embroidery to sell to expatriates, to local people. So that's how we came up with Queen Amina Embroidery. And Hassana Yusuf has been the manager, the director of this project since its inception. And here she is showing a woman, one of the Queen Amina embroiderers, what she wanted them to do for this particular item. She brings them thread, materials, and then when they're finished embroidering, she comes and picks it up from them and pays them. So that's how we've been doing things over the years. This is Nigeria, and Nigeria's in West Africa, Morocco's in North Africa, and Kale's work is in all over parts of Africa, but some in Southern Africa. So, and Zaria is here. So that's where we're doing the work. I don't know why this doesn't want to go down. Okay. This is a type of hand embroidery they were doing in Zaria for over 100 years. And it's various buttonhole stitches and satin stitches and chain stitches. And this is a very famous pattern. It's known as the Northern Knot. And you can see this is another version of this larger Riga robe. Okay. It doesn't want to go down. Okay, oh, maybe that's it. Okay, so this was the first thing that we came up with. We're doing pillows for these women. And you can see that the Northern Nigerian knot is here. And these are traditional patterns on pillows.
Yeah, maybe it's just slow.
No, you know what it is? I just have to hit the never mind, I figured it out. So this is another type of embroidery that women were doing for bed sheets. And you can see that it's a satin stitch. And in this particular case, it's the emir's palace, and here's the emir on a horse. But normally they would do flowers and birds and things. We made them into wall hangings. So that was how we did that. Okay. Then these things were, I was selling these at the African Studies Association meetings, and we were making some money doing it. And then Hassana got a contact from Vital Voices. I don't know if any of you've heard of Vital Voices. It was a project, it's still on, sponsored by ExxonMobil. And what they were doing was promoting African crafts women in particular. And so Hasana was taken to Ghana, she was taken to South Africa, and they had seminars teaching participants in how to expand their businesses. And Hasana came back, and we were hoping that Vital Voices would help with an online site, which they didn't do. But they did have a consultant that came to Zaria and helped Hasana come up with some new projects. And one of the projects, one of the new items that they came up with were these buttons, which are lovely. And then, so she had that, and also pouches, which I'll show you in a minute, and also some women's tops, more stylized. Okay, whoops. Now how do I go back? Oops. Previous. It's just is all messed up.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, this is just not working very well. Previous. Okay, so these were the things that came up. The things on the left are the pouches that that Heather Moss had come up with as ideas for new products for Queen Amina, and also a more stylized women's top. And then Hasana got invited to the International Folk Art Market in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to exhibit her things. And that was in 2016, I believe. And she did very well. And one of the things that came out of that was a fantastic opportunity. But before I get to that fantastic opportunity, I just wanted to tell you about Etsy. This was another project that we got involved in. You know, Etsy has a website and you can put your things up on Etsy. Unfortunately, Etsy has so many things that Queen Amina didn't really stand out. And we only had one sale, which was a pillow, the original type of pillow. So we decided just to take our things off its Etsy site. Then Weave a Real Piece has been a real promoter of Queen Amina embroidery and over the years. And recently, I think you all know there was a Weave a Real Piece auction. And so we put up a woman's top, a small child's top, and also a pouch for selling through the auction. Everything went. And then the thing that came out of the International Folk Art Market in Santa Fe was connection with Susan Hall Walker, you may or may not have heard of. She founded the group called Ibu Movement, which has they have a gallery in Charleston, South Carolina. And this is a model that's modeling one of the kaftans that they helped Hasana come up with for stylized, high fashion outfits, which is what they specialize in. So this was the first thing that Ibu, that Hasana had, the hand embroiderers make for Ibu. And then this is the most recent kaftan that they made. And this is up on their Ibu website right now. So, unfortunate thing about it, I mean, this is a great opportunity, and Ibu's still been very supportive of Queen Amina embroidery. But the problem is now with the coronavirus, people aren't going out wearing fancy clothes so much. So, it's kind of hard to sell some of these things now. But maybe, eventually this will pick up again. And it's been a great opportunity. So what they've done in the meantime, this is another Ibu project. They came up with some COVID masks, and you can see here, this one here is Queen Amina on her horse. And this is that Northern Nigerian knot that you saw in some of the other things. Okay, and Ibu also helped women, the Queen Amina embroiderers, with light, because in Zaria City, they don't regularly have electricity. You can't count on it. So if these women, a lot of them want to work at night when they have free time. So Ibu funded Hasana, and here's Hasana here, to go out and buy solar powered lanterns for them to use as part of the Ibu project. And so you can see there have been lots of opportunities, lots of sort of setbacks, and Queen Amina is still producing embroidery. So what we're hoping in the future is that Hasana will be able to open a shop in Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, and sell to, international market and local markets there, and also have a local website. And that I think will be a good way of promoting Queen Amina products in Nigeria. And in the United States, I hope to have a shop in Vermont eventually. So we'll maybe be able to sell more things that way. So thank you for coming, and here's the contact information. And I've been trying to put it up on the chat, so I'll try to do that before the end of the session. So you can either contact Hasana Yusuf or me, Alicia Rennie, if you want to get, need any information about products or prices or photographs, anything you need. So thanks again, and bye.
Alicia, if someone wanted to purchase something, who would they contact?
I think it's probably better to contact me. I have a big stock of things right now. And I can always get in touch with Hasana if there's something else that's special that needs to be embroidered. We can do it that way. You can contact her. It's just the mails sometimes are a little bit iffy, as Kale I think knows about. But you can also call her. She's very good about picking up her phone. So you can try that as well.
We have a question that I think was probably on a lot of people's minds. What's the significance of the name?
Oh, Queen Amina was a 17th century warrior queen in Zaria. Zaria is an empire. I mean, it's been an emirate for a long time. And she was like the queen. She was a warrior queen and sort of famous. So that's why we named it after Queen Amina.
We are going to do questions and answers after each of the three speakers does their short presentation. So I'm going to save a question about violence to then. And if you have a question that would just help clarify, like the one about Queen Amina did, we'll go type it into the chat and I'll go ahead and ask it before we move on. But other than that, hold your questions. And if you want to type them, that's okay. I'll keep track of them in the chat and we'll go back to them after the third speaker does their presentation. All right. Thanks,
All right.
Alicia. That was great. We'll come back to you in a little bit. Susan
Hello.
Davis, where are you? Oh, we don't see you at the moment. But, oh, there you are. Okay, I see there's two of you.
I'm going to tell you about my project, MarrakeshExpress.org, which I began in Morocco in 2001. In 94, I started selling online for myself. The video is a quick overview of the project. It gives you a quick idea of what it is, and then I'll tell you in more detail. And you can see the context.
I first came to Morocco in the mid-60s, where I was sent to Kenya by accident and loved it. I ended up in this village at the end of a career in anthropology and working with women in development, especially in Morocco, because I found they have so much potential. They make beautiful products, but they often can't market them or don't get a fair price for them. I thought by using the internet, they could get their products out to the whole world. I saw there was a real need for them to be able to market their things. I could take their rugs and put them on my website with a picture of the woman and her rug. I wanted the women's permission to put their photos on the internet, but I couldn't just say, can I put your photo on the internet, since they had no idea what it was. I explained to them, being on the internet is like being at an open air market in Morocco. People walk by and they choose what they want. I'm really motivated to help these women because I see how hard they work in all areas of their life. They make these beautiful rugs, and if I could do something to help them have better lives in some way, make more money so they can feed their families better, I'm really pleased if I can help in that effort. So that's why I'm doing this project.
Okay. So that's the name of my project, Marrakesh Express. And as you saw in the brief video, the goal is to help local women sell things and get all of the profit. Mostly they sell through middlemen who take much more of the profit than they get. So I did this pro bono so that they would get all of the profit and reach an international market. I hope that's not me you're hearing. Here's Morocco, which is on the very northwest corner of Africa, in North Africa. You can see it's right across from Spain. And I did this project with two groups. I would have liked to expand to more, but two groups was on my own free time was about all I could handle. So the first group I worked with is down here in the south, if you can see my little arrow, in the Anti-Atlas Mountains, about an hour and a half from Ouarzazate. And the second group is up here in the north by Fez and Meknes in the Middle Atlas Mountains, near the small town of Azrou. So I'll introduce you to the places and the artisans in more detail. There's Nakob, the village in the south that I started with in 2001. You can see it's very arid. I wondered, they've got great sheep, but I don't know what they eat. There's a little green because they have some water for irrigation, but basically it's very dry. Still, a lot of people raise sheep and they shear them and work the wool mostly themselves and make beautiful rugs. They're known as being among the best weavers in Morocco. So they make lots of kind of rugs. This is a pile or knotted rug, which I believe belongs to a warp member. This is a kind of rug that has 3 kinds of weaving in it, which I haven't seen anyplace else. The red and blue stripes are flat weave. The big diamonds are knotted or pile. And the third weave is the black and white zigzags, which is twining, where you manually wind the weft thread around the warp thread. So it's very time consuming, but they're really beautiful. And just from this part of Morocco. They also do all flat weave rugs. And this one I actually sold several times. The weaver remade it. And I think people liked it because of the irregularity. You can really see it's handmade. It's sort of naive and really pretty. To show you some of the weavers in that area, I worked with younger women, and they're from different ethnic groups, but they're both in the village. They get along just fine, although they don't intermarry. And also with older women, like this grandma who made a rug that's been remade several times. And she got dressed up for her picture with some of her wedding jewelry, the coins on a chain. Then to move up to the northeast, this is Ben Smeem, the other town I worked with. And you can see it's a much more fertile area. They grow lots of fruits and vegetables. It's about the same size, small. And the rugs are very different. And that's a fun thing about Morocco. Rugs are different all over because until maybe the 30s or 40s, when the French colonized and built roads, everybody was isolated from each other by the mountains. So they had their own styles. And that persisted for quite a while, but now it's changing and they're getting more homogenized. So they mainly make flat weave rugs in the Middle Atlas, so they do some pile. And they like sequins. So this is a flat weave with sequins. And there you can see a close-up of how detailed it is. And the fascinating thing is all the women I work with work freehand. None of them look at diagrams. This kind, they work on the back. And the knotted ones, they work on the front. They can see the pattern emerging. This one, you can't see what you're doing because all these strings are hanging off the back. So I'm just amazed how they get these complicated patterns correctly, but they do. That's the weaver of that rug. And that's the weaver of a knotted rug that she's kneeling on. They really like this color scheme. And they don't use natural dye much, but in this area, some people still use madder root, which maybe have been the red in this rug. And you can see a sequin bedspread behind her. I also worked with older women there. So this lady made some very complicated rugs, flat weaves with complex patterns. And you see a little blue on her chin and her forehead. Those are tattoos. And a lot of older Berber women used to have tattoos. They don't do that anymore. It's sort of like beauty marks. You did them to look beautiful.
Susan, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. We've had a couple of questions about the sequined rug.
Okay.
One person wanted to know if the sequins were part of the weaving process or were sewn on afterwards.
Sewn on afterwards, so that, which I get that question a lot because Americans often don't like them. And so you can cut them off without any damage to the rug. Although I didn't like stuff at first, but I really got into glitz a little bit when I got into Morocco. And if you see those sequin rugs and the gold thread fabric in lantern light, they're just gorgeous. And I've got a client who bought a sequin rug and she said, I wasn't so sure, but one night I got up and I walked across it. It was like walking across stars. So you can really get into them. Other question?
That's it. They were both about that.
Okay. In both sites, they make women's wedding capes. And all over Morocco, the wedding capes are different. So you can tell what area someone is from by her wedding cape. So this style is an off-white wool and something white that they might call cotton, but I think it's rayon. And that fringe you see is very characteristic. On the other side of the fringe is a little delicate pattern. And if you look down at the very bottom, you see a little bit of that pattern peeking out from the other side. And this is lots of sequins. When you walk, it jingles. It sounds really nice. Something else that people are getting into more about Moroccan rugs that they didn't used to are rag rugs. And they make them either out of old clothing, leftover fabric, or they unravel sweaters and make them. These aren't too exciting, but I tell people to look for them hanging over fences when they go on my tours, because you can get really creative with these rugs. They don't care about the market, it's just for home. So you see some really fun, wild and crazy rugs with the rags. And the process of how I run the project is there are women leaders in the Southern Village. This is a Southern Village, Nakob. And they tell the women when I'm coming to bring your rugs, Susan's going to come. And I photograph them, weigh them, measure them, and photograph the women. So there the women are waiting for their rugs to get photographed. That's a large knotted rug, complicated. And look at the beautiful stonework behind the guy. They also have these beautiful stonework houses. And then I go back and put a picture of the rug and of the women on my website. So this is a screenshot of what you'd see on Marrakesh Express. I describe the rug and the colors and the size and the price. And then I tell them something about the women. Do they do it alone? How long does it take? How many kids do they have? What does their husband do? And this one I asked what their husband did, and they said they wait for the rugs to get done. But in fact, their husbands had some sheep and some agriculture as well. To do this project, I had to have assistants, and I foresaw that perhaps they could replace me, but it unfortunately didn't happen. But after I photographed the rugs, I told the women, don't keep them because I know they need them for emergency money sometimes. So I have to contact my assistants and say, is the rug available? Can you send it? And I'll send you the money to give to the woman. So I had to have an intermediary. This is my assistant in the north, Habiba, who actually was her mother in the big sequined wedding cape. And we didn't have a way to weigh the rugs ourselves. So we borrowed a scale from a shopkeeper, put a milk can on top of it, and then rolled up the rug. So we knew we have to do that to calculate the price of the postage. And then she would pack it up and send it, and I would send her the money. These are my assistants in the south. I had somebody else at first, but now this is Ahmed and Kabira, who live in the nearby town, but she's president of the village Women's Weaving Association. Those are some of the kind of rugs they make in the south. On the left, it's a knotted rug. On the right, they're flat weaves. And notice this thing up on the top here. This is a, oops. Uh-oh. That's the only time I've seen a woman with a pictorial kind of rug in her house. Kabira is very creative and very smart. And she made that, it's the mountains fading into the distance. And that's just what they look like at sunset, the colors change. So she's a really great woman. She was at Santa Fe in 2016 also. And you might want to see the kind of looms they use in the south, and some in the north, many in the north use professional looms. In the south, they're so well known for being good weavers that they make enough money to buy professional looms. They often work together like this. This is also in the south, some people who weren't so well off, and you might use some straight tree trunks and use that for a loom if you don't have a professional one. Still works. One thing I like about the weavers in both places, maybe especially in the south, is they process their own wool. If you buy shop wool, it can be really ugly colors. But in the south, they process their own. They, card, spin, and dye it themselves. So there's Aisha, who was the previous leader of the women's co-op, spinning. That's her mother, who is out gathering some flowers for natural dye. This makes yellow or gold. And I think it's weavers, or what do you call it? Prickly broom. But if anybody who's watching can tell me that in a chat, if that really is prickly broom, I'd be interested to know, because that's the closest I could come up with. And Aisha, the daughter, did us a demonstration dyeing with that. And here's the kind of thing they'd use the dye in. This is a Southern women's wedding cape. And they're off-white, this beautiful ivory wool with these little delicate designs that are just gorgeous. And they'll use the natural dye in that because in a bigger piece, it's too much work to process it. The color might not be consistent, but for little things like this, they use it. So if you go to Morocco and a merchant tells you something's natural dye, be very skeptical. Here's a selection of pile rugs at Aisha's house. And when I go down there, I stay at her house, and rugs are their furniture. You see, you're not seeing any couches there, right? You're just seeing rugs. So I sleep on the cement floor, but with 5 rugs, it's very comfortable. And what do the women do with their money? As I said, sometimes they need it to go to the doctor, they buy kids' school supplies and so on. But if they have some left, they love to buy kitchen supplies. But they don't go into town, it's too far, it takes all day. So the supplier comes to them, the peddler with his truck full of stuff they'd like to buy. And here's Aisha, who you saw before, in her kitchen that because she's such a good weaver, she's really furnished beautifully. With on the blue thing on the floor is an electric bread oven. Behind her is a radio and a countertop cooker, and then the beautiful tile and all her kitchen gadgets she was very proud of. So this is a book I published recently with Thrums, which has now changed to Schiffer Publishing. Thrums has closed and put their stock on Schiffer, or you can get it on Amazon. It describes the women that you've seen in the pictures. That's Aisha, who you met, and also from both sites. I also lead tours to Morocco, and you can see that's the women on the left from Nakob. I really like, as an anthropologist, I love people to meet people, so we go to people's villages. On the right is Amina Yabis, who makes jalaba buttons that we go to her house and learn to make. And she does a demonstration of natural dye. She's holding up something she's dyed, and they both feed us lunch. However, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that again. But if you're interested, drop me an email, which you can see at the bottom of this page, and let me know, and I'll put you on my list to notify when I do tours. So this is just reference points. That's my website. If you go to that, especially to Nakob, I'm not operating it very actively anymore. I'm not putting new stuff on. Most of the stuff from Nakob is sold. But if you see something you like, the women are so good, they can remake anything. And so it's too late to get it for the holidays, but you could take a screen print of the rug and the weavers and give it to whoever you're giving the gift to and say, you're going to get a surprise in a few months. Check with me to be sure it can be remade. But that's something you could do. I referred my women to this other site, theanu.com, which is terrific. They've got 100 Moroccan artisan groups on there. They're very concerned that the weavers get a good price. They're training Moroccans to take over. I tried to do that and I couldn't find anybody. So they're really good. And they have wonderful blogs about women weaving and training them to do something new. So it's really a fun site. And as I said at the bottom, you see my email. If you want to be in touch about anything, I'd be glad to be in touch.
Thank you very much, Susan. That was terrific. We
Good.
had a few more questions come in, but I'm going to save those to the question and answer period because I think
Okay.
all 3 of our speakers would be interested in weighing in on that.
Okay.
So our last speaker this afternoon or morning is Kale. Is it Chapel? Is that how you say it? Or Chappelle?
Yes, Kale Chappell from basketsofafrica.com. And I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm also a basket maker myself, which is a relatively new development in the last 3 years. I started working in African art in 1991, and I had it was only working in Zimbabwe primarily with hand-carved stone sculpture. And I got that job because I had a special skill that was needed, which I'm demonstrating in the left here, which is that I could type really fast. So that got me going to Africa and falling in love with the continent. And you can tell this is a really old picture of me because I have some hair in that picture. By 2002, I had realized if I had my own project, I could do things my own way, make sure the people that make the items get paid better for their work, the highest prices possible. On my first trip to Africa, and I went out to the villages and saw how people live. Well, I grew up very, very poor, homeless for years, living without electricity or running water, having to walk and carry water, you know, bathing once a week when you can build a fire to heat enough water. So when I went to Africa the first time, I saw, wow, there's an entire continent that lives like this, and I need to do something with my life to help some of these people. I chose basketry at the time because it was the opposite of the stone sculpture. The stone sculpture was very heavy, very fragile. You required forklifts for moving it and everything. And I thought, well, baskets are light. I appreciate handwork. My mom has done handwork all my life, beadwork. She's taught me how to do beadwork starting when I was age 5. My father was a carpenter doing fine finish carpentry. So I always appreciated handwork, and I was always sort of amazed and fascinated by baskets and didn't really know how they were made. So I started on this journey actually in 2001, but my first shipment arrived from Africa in 2002. And part of my mission in supporting the women, most of the basket weavers are women in Africa. There are exceptions to that rule, but most are women. And by helping the women, you virtually guarantee that you're helping the children. You know, sometimes if you're helping the men, maybe you're helping the children, maybe not. But when you're helping the women, you're putting the money in their hands, then they spend it on their children primarily. A number one thing they do is pay school fees for education. When they get money, they access healthcare, they access water, whatever they want to spend the money on, I pay them the most possible so they can decide how to spend the money. And by the way, these pictures are in Ghana here. And this was in February this year in Uganda. And when you take a picture like this with your cell phone, this is how you know you're too close to the lion. So I don't recommend doing this. So now over all these years, I've ended up sourcing baskets. Currently, I'm sourcing baskets in these countries, quite a few. And what I do is I look for the unique basket of that country, something where I can see from 100 feet away. That's from, well, like Morocco, for example, in the south by Essaouira, they make a basket out of bulrush, which is actually woven on a loom and then sewn together. I haven't seen that anywhere else in Africa, so that's what I source in Morocco. Some countries there will be several different unique types of baskets, and even a small country that are very distinctly of that country. And I source them from those people who have that as their traditional type of basketry. I don't source them from people who copy that type of basketry. And I'll show you an example here in a minute. I love this map. It shows you how big Africa is, because a lot of people don't really realize, the Sahara Desert alone is bigger than the United States. And then you throw in most of Europe, India, and China, that's about the size of Africa.
Wow.
So an example here, traditional Zulu basket on the right, palm leaf, naturally dyed, coiled over grass, and was traditionally woven to hold water. Where on the left, the Zulu people invented this type of weaving where they weave from the top down over a form and use something akin to telephone wire. They don't use telephone wire anymore. And in fact, we started making special wire about almost 15 years ago. About 15 years ago in Durban, South Africa, we make this wire so we can use recycled materials, make it in special colors, and also make it lead free, where like telephone wire coming in from China is cheaper, but it has lead in the coating apparently, and it just doesn't look as nice. So, but this is a distinctly Zulu. Men invented that type of weaving. So that's the only place I source those baskets. They're copied in every country in Southern Africa. They were even being copied in Vietnam for a while. But the Zulu people are the ones that invented that weaving. Those are the ones that I support. If you buy a copied basket, I feel like instead of preserving culture, you're actually destroying culture, because you're taking work and money away from the people who invented that. And that's their livelihood, is weaving those baskets. So that's one of the big exceptions, is the Zulu wire baskets are primarily woven by men. And that's because it's very difficult to weave. You have to pull very hard to get the perfect tension on the basket. Then once I find a unique type of basket like that, I work with those weavers to keep improving quality, and I bring them here to the US and hope to find someone to buy them. Of course, selling baskets is my least favorite thing to do, but in order to buy baskets, you have to sell baskets. So hence basketsofafrica.com. We have the largest selection of African baskets in the world because I'm sourcing in so many countries. So here's just a couple of examples of different types of baskets: very finely coiled baskets from Botswana, or Mosi sieve baskets they use for sieving food and sorting. A twined basket from Zimbabwe, naturally dyed raffia and banana leaf baskets from Uganda. Burundi has a beautiful basket, very similar to what they do in Rwanda. But they've put a different spin on it in Burundi. Burundi is right next door to Rwanda. Eswatini, they do very finely coiled baskets out of sisal that they harvest themselves, strip the fibers out of the leaves, or actually they strip the pulp away from the fibers, spin that into thread, dye it, and then start weaving over grass. And those coils are less than 1/8 of an inch on average, about 1/8 of an inch. No, yeah, less than 1/8 of an inch. To make this 12-inch basket will take someone a couple of months. Rwanda, Nubian refugees from South Sudan have come into Kenya, Uganda, other countries surrounding there, and they make these interesting baskets out of papyrus and using natural dyes to get these amazing colors. So just a variety of different baskets. So each place that I'm sourcing baskets, I try to get what is distinctly of that country, of that culture. And then over time, over decades, in some cases here, we kind of just keep working on quality. And by buying, one thing I realized when I started the project is the more baskets I can sell, the more people I can help in Africa. So I'm set up as a business, not a nonprofit, because as a business that primarily sells a product and doesn't solicit donations, I don't qualify to be a nonprofit. So I've evolved into this not-for-profit business in order to return the most money possible back to the mostly women who make the baskets. And by giving the money directly to the women through organized co-ops, it elevates their sort of status in their family, in their village, in their town, in the society, and gives them more power in their relationships around them. So I'll dig in here a little bit more to Ghana, because Ghana has what I would call the most common African baskets. When people say I have an African basket, a lot of times it's one of these, especially this one in the top left, the market basket. That's because there's 10,000 weavers, around 10,000 weavers. They've been exporting these baskets since the 1950s to the US, to Europe. And now they're doing a lot of export, actually even to Asia, because the quality of the baskets is so high. And one of the keys to it, they've been copied also in Vietnam, and they're being copied in China right now. In a picture, they look the same, but you take those other baskets out and try to use them, and they fall apart, because they don't have this grass, this kinkahe straw. You can see it's very stiff and very strong. And then they split that in half lengthwise, twist it back into a cord, and then weave with it. And that makes a basket with this type of weave in the bottom left, a sort of a coarse weave, or they then unwind it, wind each half back up together, and they do a fine weave like these two up here.
No, we're about out of time.
Okay, so this is
Run your way through.
Little video of them weaving. Uganda, I was there in January and February this year, thankfully, worked with them on natural dyeing, using cosmo flowers, marigolds, madder root, indigo. I like to sit and weave with them as much as I can. And these were the colors here that we made that day, using all the local materials. local plant matter. Here she's harvesting banana leaf, and we'll just kind of go through this. They split the banana leaves down and they put that inside their coils. And this is a video where she's explaining how the patterns are made. So I'm going to skip over that. And then to get here to these ladies, it was about 2 hours from the airport to the capital. And then this is in Uganda, and then about 12 hours by bus to the nearest town. And then about another hour on the road, about another 45 minutes up a dirt track. And then we couldn't make it any further. So then we hiked the last 30 minutes to get up to where this weaving group is. And my shameless plugs here at the end. If you want a basket from Africa, you can come and check out our website and use the coupon code WARP through March 31st. And you get free shipping in the 48 contiguous United States and 10% off. And then usually I give like a 45-minute presentation on African baskets. So if you know of any other groups or anybody who's interested, you could pass them along, give them my information if you could. And you can contact me in any of these manners, and I'll put it in the chat as well. And that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Cale. That was great. I know that you're in so many countries and you have so much variety that it's a challenge to keep it to 10 minutes, but we want to make sure we have time for some questions and discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. If anybody wants the 10-hour presentation, I'm also happy to give that.
Ay. Okay. So let's see. Alicia, I'm going to unmute. I think you might be able to unmute yourself, but why don't you see if you could do that? Susan, I think you're unmuted. And we're already getting kudos. Beth Benjamin says that was wonderful. But let me start us off with a few questions. The first one I want to ask about is concerns about violence, particularly in the northern Nigerian area. Is that an issue these days? And Alicia, maybe you can tell us your take on that. And Cale and Susan, if you want to jump in on that question, is it safe? I guess that's the big issue.
I don't know. There was a school kidnapping like 3 days ago in Katsina State, which is north of Zaria. So it depends. Northern Nigeria is a very big area. So in the northeast, it's pretty dangerous. In around Zaria, it's not undangerous. So there are still kidnappings at the university there, for example. And I was there in January and February, and basically people didn't let me out of their sight because it's kidnapping is a problem there. So I couldn't do we couldn't do tours there. But everyone that I know so far seems to be okay. I mean, people just have to be vigilant, really.
That is one of the advantages. I think when we're going there to help people on the grounds, then they take care of us when we're there, because we're like their lifeline, we're their income, we're their, so they really watch out for you and take care of you. And violence is a problem everywhere across Africa, but generally a lot of the time, I feel like what you see and read in the news is bigger than what you might actually be happening on the ground. But for example, the election is coming up in Uganda next month, and Yoweri Museveni has been the oldest, longest standing dictator in the world, and he's not really wanting to lose this election, as dictators often don't. So one of my Nubian friends were going to the post office to ship some baskets to me. And they said they couldn't go because there was too much tear gas and too many bullets flying in Kampala, the capital, last week in the lead up to the election. So they said, so sorry, do you mind if we go next week? I was like, of course, go anytime when it's safe. That's more important than baskets, is that you're safe.
And in Morocco, there isn't kidnapping and so on. I've got a good friend, an American, who works with a Moroccan. They're both lawyers running an advocacy group supporting Moroccan women. And they've had an anti-violence against women campaign. And they said with COVID, it's stepping up because the men are frustrated and can't get out and don't have jobs, and the women can't get out to report to the police and so on because they had a very strong shutdown. That's loosened up a bit now. So it's like here, there's violence against women and they're working against it, including doing things like taking the women to the police station to show them how to complain, working with the police to show them how to take a complaint, and so on.
Had someone ask if the talks are recorded and made available on the WARP website, and yes, they are. It'll take maybe a few days or a week to get the cleaning up process done, but Kelsey will be posting this on the website as well as the one we did last month. Let me follow up with a question about how women are treated. And I guess this has to do with someone's experience probably in Morocco. The question was, do women receive all the profits, or do the men get most of them? So I guess that question would be to all three of the speakers. How are the profits shared in the family and in the community where they work?
I'll speak for Nigeria. Nigeria women get the money. They don't share it with their husbands. So that's that.
Okay. Susan, how about you?
My assistants give the money to the men. I could have said, give it directly to the women, and he probably would have, and then the woman would have handed it to the husband and said, that silly American woman. But they do get a part of the money, and I don't know what part. It's very hard to talk to them. I try and talk to them about money. They're very hesitant because it's a bargaining culture, and they think when I ask how much more do you get from me than from somebody else, they think I'm going to bargain them down when I really want to bargain them up. And I finally tease out of them, they get like half as much again to 3 times as much when I sell a rug for them as opposed to selling it locally.
That's important. And when they can access international markets, they can get so much more than in the local markets. A lot of the weaving groups will just tell me, like, I'm the only one that gives them a fair price. And I let them all set their own prices. I don't negotiate prices. They set their own prices. I bring them here and see if I can sell them. If I can, we start small and work up. In some cases, like the Zulu wire baskets, we started with 40 part-time weavers 18 years ago. And now we have over 600 full and part-time weavers. It's full employment in that area of Zululand. Everybody within walking distance of the weaving center can make baskets if they want to. In that case, again, the Zulu are primarily men. Almost everywhere else it's women, and they're self-organized co-ops primarily. So there aren't men even around. Like in that village that I showed you I was at, we didn't see another man. There wasn't another man there. It was all women. The women organize it. The women all like donate a basket every month or 2 months to the weaving center, so that to the co-op, so that then the co-op can hire a secretary. The secretary is the one that I usually develop the best relationship with, because that's the person that can speak English and talk to me on the phone and talk to me by email and WhatsApp and that sort of thing. So I'm constantly in communication with people in Africa every day, at least a dozen conversations going in all these different countries, primarily by WhatsApp now. WhatsApp has just been an amazing tool that's transformed communication to Africa.
Let me ask the three of you a design question. And I'll start with you, Kale, because someone has also asked, what is that piece hanging on the wall behind you? But the question is, what is the design process? Do you specify what you're looking for? Are they traditional designs? Is it some combination? How does that work? And that's for all three of you.
So for me, I'll take it first. This one in the back is, this is actually 2 pieces of Bogolan Fini, or mud cloth, from Mali, from a UNESCO World Heritage weaver named Boubacar Douambia. And he built these big looms. Some of you on this call might know him or have met him. He built these big looms, and he does these modern interpretations of mud cloth. So I try to encourage creativity amongst the weavers, and I try to encourage that they make everything different. we have over 2,000 baskets from 22 countries on our website, and every one of them we photograph individually. There are only a couple of exceptions to that rule. There's always exceptions to every rule. Some groups, you find them and they only want to repeat patterns. So I'll run like a contest. Everybody come up with some new ideas. And then we buy all those baskets from the contest. But then we also will say like, okay, well, if you guys want to make more of this one, then we'll buy those from you. So it's kind of different in every country and every group, even inside different countries. But for the most part, I try to preserve culture, encourage creativity. And then I try to figure out how to sell it here, where a lot of other people or buyers of baskets in Africa in particular, they'll say, we want 500 of this, we want 200 of that, like it's a factory or something. And this is nothing like that. The women don't like just repeating themselves constantly. So I just let them make whatever they want to make, and I give them little bits of feedback here and there, like, can you make it tighter? Can you make smaller coils? You get paid more the finer the basket is, that sort of thing. And then over decades, you come out with just amazing things. The women are so creative.
Alicia, what's the design process for you, your group?
Yeah, well, I think I showed you some of those babanriga, the big robes that traditionally were being embroidered. They used some of those patterns. And there was one man that we knew, Jimmy Makajia, who used to design, he designs robes. And so he would help do designs on our pillows and, for all those things. And then eventually Hasana and her son figured out, how to do those designs. So we had those designs done. And then also the Ibu movement people have been sending designs to Hasana. So that's how, these are 3 options.
How are the designs selected in the Moroccan communities where you work?
I just buy what they have. So it's mostly traditional designs, and they change sometimes. A sort of a new pattern came up that people like a lot that's much less regular, called mountains or crazy or whatever, or Picasso of Morocco by merchants. But basically it's the traditional designs, and I just take what they have. They've asked me what people would like, and I say, Americans like blue, but I don't give them any help besides that.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have one last question. It's 2 minutes after 2, so we'll do this last question and then wrap it up. And that is, how do you find markets for your products? This is clearly a niche of people that really value and appreciate ethnic textiles of various sorts, baskets included. What do you have the most success with?
Who do you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
Oh, I should start? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when I first started selling things, I went to the African Studies Association meetings. And it's people that know about Nigerian culture who are, our best advocates. But people who are interested in embroidery have also been buying things from Hasana. So it's that combination of embroidery and Northern Nigeria, Hausa embroidery, that really has been selling things for us.
Susan, how about you?
I got on the internet in 1994 selling for myself very early on, so people could find me on the internet. Now you go on the internet, nobody can find you. And I developed a mailing list from that. Anybody who asked me any questions about Moroccan rugs, I kept their email. And I would send out periodic emails about, here are new pieces, are you interested? And that was very, very helpful. The book has helped a little bit. Somebody who saw the book ordered a rug, but not as much as I'd hoped, or as much as the women in the book had hoped. But I think that's the main thing, letting groups, textile groups know about the site. When I've given talks and tell them about the site, I get some customers.
I find the internet, basketsofafrica.com. I started that in 2001. At the end of 2001, I had already launched the website before I received my first baskets from Africa. and just sort of established a foothold there on the internet. Like Susan was saying, it's difficult to get noticed nowadays if you're starting something new. But and then just a lot of long, dedication, a lot of years put behind it. And I think I have, all of us have our unique way of doing things and the unique take on it. And I find the biggest challenge being, I actually have competitors now that don't pay fairly to the weavers. And in some cases I found, like when I was in Kenya in January, I was doing some analysis with the ladies and found out I'm paying 17 times higher than fair trade wages. In
Wow.
Uganda, we were paying about 12 times more than what was fair trade wages, and 50% higher than even multi-million-dollar nonprofits are doing from North America. So I just do what's right, and I think it comes through and people find you, and just keep working at it and don't give up. There's been 1,000 times when it would have been much easier to just give up, as I'm sure Susan and Alicia have also had the similar experiences. But you can't give up, because there's all those people in Africa depending on you. And at the stage I'm at now in the development of this project, I have thousands of people in Africa that depend on me in those 22 countries. And it's a huge burden on my shoulders to try to sell their work so that I can buy more work. By doing it in larger volumes, I'm helping more people, but it's also just a lot of sleepless nights too.
Very good. Well, we've been so impressed with the stories that all three of you have shared with us today. It's been a pleasure to spend an hour together. Despite a few technical glitches at the beginning, we've all forgotten about that, and we're now off with sugar plums dancing in our head or whatever. So Kelsey will let us know when the video is posted on the website. You're, of course, welcome to share it with others. Watch it again if you like. What else do we need to say besides have a wonderful holiday?
Holiday.
Judy, we
Yes.
were going to have you say something about the artisan resource guide that WARP has if people wanted to look for other possible holiday gifts or whatever, because there's a compilation on the WARP site of all the kinds of things that WARP members work with people to produce in the way that we do. All kinds of different things.
Right, you are. So if you really want to be inspired, go to the WARP website, and we've typed that in there, but it's weavearealpeace.org, and look for Artisan Resource Guide. All of our members who have wanted to and have had the resources in terms of the groups they work with have posted on there where you can get some products. Thanks for reminding me, Susan. I knew there was something I was forgetting.
And I want to
I
say,
also should mention that we're going to be doing this again next month on the third Saturday. And next month's topic,
Guatemala.
country, Guatemala. So Phyllis is working hard right now on rounding up the speakers. And what's after Guatemala, Phyllis?
Then Asia, if we get enough of them, we're kind of slim in the Asia market. And then Mexico. And
Right, so
then
if any of you know people who are doing work with groups in Asia,
I
let
do.
Phyllis
Oh
know.
boy, she's tuned in
Tips.
right now. June, listen.
okay, well,
Okay.
I put my email in the chat box so you can contact me directly.
and I just
What
want
else?
to add, if I can, this is Susan,
Sure.
I'm the
Sure.
president of WARP, and more and more people are understanding that they don't have to buy from Amazon. That when they buy directly from sources like this, they're helping so many people and getting fabulous gifts that are greatly appreciated. So that's my little plug.
Thank you.
I want to give a quick thank you also. I'm actually a new member. A lot of you probably this is the first time you've seen me, but I'm a new member. I want to thank you all for welcoming me into the organization, and special shout out to Jackie Abrams, who let me know that WARP can be about baskets also and weaving techniques. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Glad to have you.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. We appreciate you being here and your attention and your great questions. And we look forward to seeing you another time. Bye now.